that the people who were trying to get access from DOGE, this cybersecurity government worker, determined that the DOGE people were hackers. Oh no. Anybody who says my work is based on systematic analysis and bipartisan appropriation bills should be fired immediately, okay? Like clearly.
And I have to tell you, Laura, I watched that hearing today and tried to do it objectively, just as an American paying attention to a committee hearing. And I got to tell you, I was really embarrassed for my Democratic colleagues, Mr. Garcia and others.
Democrats are so upset with Trump's new changes and the constant winning in the administration that they're now filing lawsuits and they're claiming emotional damage, as we'll see here very soon. Filed by J. Does 1 through 26, and the purveyor of this lawsuit is the very terrible Norm Eisen, who has been responsible for a lot of the Trump lawfare, some even speculating he may be behind many of the civil cases that were lodged against Trump during the election. So he brought this. He says, breaking! We're suing Musk and DOGE for violating the Constitution. It's one of the more embarrassing lawsuits we've seen because the people who are complaining about it are whining about dumb stuff. They have no right to your personal data, no authority to dismantle entire agencies. We're calling their bluff and taking them to court. Okay, Norm. So here's what he wrote. Now here's the nature of this action. Elon Musk has an office in the White House and no supervising official and a team of individuals with wide-ranging access. Now he was the driving force behind the creation of DOGE, it's true, and acts as the de facto administrator despite lacking any formal announcement by Trump or any public process affiliated with this. They're like, we need some committee to look over this. What are you talking about? Trump takes office. He has tons of advisors and counsel and tons of people that come in, chief of staff and director of this and many things. That's what Elon is. Now, in his role, they say Musk has extraordinary power and he's doing all sorts of things. And what's so fun about these lawsuits is you can just see the absolute winning in their lists of and their screeds, right? His power includes a ton. And what he's doing is dismantling entire, here you go, independent federal agencies. No, they're not independent, so stop with that. So recent weeks demonstrate that Musk is doing this, right? A reckless slash and burn pattern, which has been one of the most enjoyable experiences on the show. It says he identifies a federal program, targets them, relies on information posted on X, he picks them with the help of America. Then he installs DOGE, which largely consists of former employees, and sends them into the agencies. Then they gain access to the core operating systems. It's like a fun novel we're reading together. Often demanding access to stuff that is forbidden by privacy and security laws for individuals who have no clearance to access that info, right? All that's debatable. If resistance is met by the quote, duly appointed officers, whatever that means, or regular staff, they threaten them and they ensure that any personnel roadblocks are placed on leave or otherwise removed immediately, walked out, perhaps even amplifying threats. See that? Perhaps amplify threats against staff on X, heightening the risk of third-party harassment, right? Can't make that claim with any real solidarity. So they're like, perhaps. Pathetic. Use the agency's internal technology and informational systems, again, without legal authorization by, I guess, Norm, to identify personnel for termination and contracts for freezing. It's been happening at a rapid pace. All internally by the appropriate people. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent was appointed and confirmed by the Senate. The president is directing these things to happen. That is the authorization. It's authorized. Begin dismantling the agency from within, severely disrupting or crippling them, and posting about it on X, which is just so great. They hate it. In the case of USAID in particular, Musk's actions were far ahead of other members of the Trump administration. And it's clear the duties of Musk and DOGE have performed are starting to dismantle the Department of Education. And Musk has not been nominated or confirmed by the Senate. So, moreover, even if Musk is qualified, Treasury is, and many others are. Finally, even if Musk could somehow be considered a mere employee, there's a grave violation of separation of powers. Let's see how he explains this. But there are questions about his power. They're not merely academic. Lots of people are losing things here, and this is an unconstitutional power grab. And so for all these reasons, what they're asking for is an injunction. Stop Elon Musk and DOGE from performing their duties until Musk is properly appointed pursuant to the Constitution, right? So into what position? So here's what they say. All these Jane Does who are so cowardly as like little, government employees that they won't even put their names behind this because they're pathetic. When, they don't want retribution or whatever, but then they just smear the J6ers all the time. And listen to some of these people. So Jay Doe, this is where it gets hilarious, is a professional services contractor who has been with USAID since 2017. Their role is to coordinate humanitarian assistance. Their main duties include managing a portfolio of partners and providing guidance to junior staff. This is some, bureaucrat. Through work with USAID, they've been deployed into dangerous areas like Pakistan. And under their contract, in order to end the work, the government is required to provide 15 days notice. Well, they got notice. As a result, they were cut off from their email without any notice. Well, they're not entitled to access to emails. They ended the contract. They're still paying them. Doesn't mean they get access to like the refrigerator. You're done. You're notified. You're done. As of February 12th, they were given access to their email, but not to other critical systems, like I guess their money. They say DOGE have also been given full access to the USAID systems, and they can see their personnel files. Oh no. Government employees are seeing other government employee information. We're not seeing that Elon is seeing any of that. Is he looking at people's personal info? They haven't proven that. As a result of the dangerous nature of JDO 1's job, specifically their deployment, there's all sorts of personal information in there, like tattoo descriptions, a passphrase, family member info, and all of this stuff. It's extremely confidential, and she's worried Elon's going to use it. So that's one. Now, JDO 2 is another employee, 10 years, this person. Their main duties are technology, cybersecurity, and privacy, which we've done a terrible job on because the Chinese have control of everything. On January 30th, was working when they were told to provide access to people from DOGE. Number 2, conducted research and determined that the people who were trying to get access from DOGE, this cybersecurity government worker, determined that the DOGE people were hackers. Oh no. Elon Musk's hackers. Very sophisticated. So JDO number 2 is like, I'm alarmed, and raised this issue with their supervisors and said, we can't give those people access here. But then JDO 2 thereafter discovered that DOGE had already gotten access, and they were given root access to these systems, the highest level ever. And you could take over the system. They can add data. They can create user accounts. Oh no. And then DOGE personnel who did not have a security clearance used their administrative rights to grant themselves access to restricted areas. It's unclear what the DOGE personnel did with that access, and I'd like to see more of this. DOGE personnel have taken over delegate rights to every USAID mailbox. They're in control of every email, which they got to be freaked about. With this, they have the ability to see every email, delete, even send on behalf of the user. Now, Joe number 2 is also aware that there is a rapid preparation to tear down the USAID network to create a condition where USAID employees will not have access to any facilities nor any computing environment at all. Gone. On February 4th, JDO 2 was put on administrative leave, lost access to everything. JDO 2 was allowed back in once this order came out into USAID, apparently pursuant to a TRO in a separate lawsuit. Now, JDO 2 understands that DOGE personnel had administrative privileges into all the systems and tools, and they took info out of the agencies and they sent it elsewhere. They got what they needed. Now, DOGE's actions, here it comes, caused JDO 2 emotional injuries right there. Feelings got hurt because he got fired and locked out of his emails. And you know what might have been happening in those emails? He's like, wait a minute. Could they see my browser history too? Like, oh yeah, easy. They could see that. Could they see my Amazon browsing? Huh? No wonder he's got emotional damages. As JDO 2 is aware of the extent of confidential information that has been breached and privacy laws broken. Emotional damage. So JDO 2 also understands the buildings have been given to other agencies. So they're like, they brought in the Border Patrol, including allowing the breaking down of offices and cubicles, okay? Like the judge issues a TRO, like you can go back to your office, let them in. They walk in, everything's gone. It's not there. And there's Border Patrol agents there eating burritos. USAID staff and contractors who worked in the buildings are not allowed inside, even to obtain their personal belongings. Yeah, no, we would let you back in the USAID building. Here's the thing. There is no more USAID building, so it's gone. And your stuff is gone. Should have taken it with you. JDO 3, who is a PSC who's been with USAID, humanitarian, whatever that is, the Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, whatever that is. They're part of a support relief group, whatever that is. They fill regular staffing shortages in DC, and they surge to support disaster responses around the world. Apparently not in North Carolina, though. They are a former Army officer and an engineer with high-level security clearance. They have filled roles in programming and other things. Now, as a result, this person, JDO 3, has been locked out of their email account and other systems. Since February, has received no communications about the status, has over $15,000 worth of travel vouchers that should be paid by the agency that's not been paid. And another one has spent 20 years working in this field. Not anymore. JDO 3 does not know if they will lose their job, has no prospect of getting considerable employment. Yeah, that's the point. Especially if the humanitarian aid sector collapses with huge cuts to US funding. Yep. I don't know if I can get another job doing this work. Yeah, because no one else can afford it. There's no rationale for this to exist. this unless you just get paid by us. J. Doe 3 is worried what will happen if there's a humanitarian emergency in her bureau. Well, we can't respond. We can't go save the planet. Sorry about that. A decision has been made. You're no longer necessary for this role. J. Doe 3 has dedicated 10 years of their life to this. And as a result of Trump, this person was cut off from their email too. Witness the negative impacts of the stop work orders. People are directly impacted. Says, as a result of this, we're now unlawfully discarding things. Witness the harm of colleagues. This person, wow, this is amazing. Okay, so J. Doe witnessed the harm of their colleagues, including a fellow whom J. Doe 4 had arranged to join the agency. Okay, so J. Doe 4, probably a Jane, it's like meets this handsome man while she's at a trans concert in the Sahara. Says, you know, you'd be great to come work with us. It's like the beginning of a James Bond movie or something. And they're traveling around. Come join us at the USAID. He says, you know, that sounds great. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I can't wait to go make some comic books together. The fellow was en route to their first day of work when he was notified this position was eliminated. Finally, J. Doe experienced a direct personal harm when the president and Musk labeled civil servants as lunatics, and they threatened to end their employment at a whim. Even though J. Doe's work has been supported by bipartisan appropriation bills and is based on systematic analysis. Oh gosh. Anybody who says my work is based on systematic analysis and bipartisan appropriation bills should be fired immediately. Okay, like clearly. That's your justification. Well, I mean, a lot of people spent money for me to do this, and I do systematic analyses. You're fired immediately. I mean, what? I don't even care where you're from. You're gone. And by the way, civil servants who are making these claims, in my opinion, are lunatics. What are you talking about? And some of them who are acting like lunatics should be called lunatics. So J. Doe number 5 is another one. A PSC who has been with USAID for 3 years. They support the agency's efforts to combat human trafficking, which of course we don't like at all. That's why we want the border closed. But they kept the border open and we're paying NGOs to traffic people in. But they say, I care about human trafficking, which is weird because they work for an agency that facilitated it. Strange. For instance, at the end of February, they were scheduled to travel to Southeast Asia. Oh, other human trafficking in other parts of the world. Got it. Not here where we care about. Got it. To help design new activities that would have worked to strengthen the government's ability to respond to trafficking rings in Asia. Okay. So this is some dumb consultant. Like what? Make tranny comic books? Is that what they're doing? What are these new activities? They lost access to their email without explanation. When that shut down, they also lost the ability to finish their report. Great. The loss of their email also prohibited them from responding to an audit. Well, you've just got audited. Okay. Here, we're doing an audit right now. We don't need your report, which says we need more money. You've been audited and you're fired. When they regained email access, there were no emails in their inbox from their previous week, even though they'd repeatedly copied their work email address, trying to copy it. All right. So like they canceled the emails. They remain confused and anxious about the status of their employment. Emotional damage. To date, no one at the agency has given them any guidance on whether they're on Yes, they have. There's plenty of guidance. They went to the website. You could see it. And they probably got the fork in the road email. Only their contracting officer has the authority to end the contract. No, that's not true. There has also been no guidance on if or how they should finalize the report, audit, and other activities that they were working on. So they're traumatized. Here's another person, 25 years in the field. Great. Subject matter experts who works on supporting independent media. Which ones? Like 10 out of the 11 in Ukraine or what? Advocating for digital rights. If this is true, I would like them to do that. They don't need tax money to do that. Just start a YouTube channel like the rest of us. And promoting information integrity, which means probably censoring us. There it is. Working on countering authoritarianism and foreign malign influence, which undermines U.S. national security. Great. A censor. Perfect. Under their contract, in order to end this, they need 15 days notice. They got it. They were in Africa working with USAID when the stop work order came. They traveled back home, freaked out, cost them tons of money. And as a result, they lost access to their work email. And they still have no idea what's going on. They don't even know if their insurance is going to be covered. Oh, terrible. So they're going to lose their insurance. Great. That's only going to be 14 days. They'll be all right. John Doe is a civil service person. 10 years there. Disaster response. He got cut off. The IT person shared that representative from DOGE had access to everything. The IT personnel knew this because they were required to help DOGE get access. On the morning of February 3, J. Doe 7 was contacted by USAID personnel overseas who were stranded without access to their accounts and their emails and whatever. On Tuesday, 7 went into the office, was eventually informed by colleagues, you had to leave, you're gone. So 7 went home to keep working. That evening, as a result of Trump, they were told they're on administrative leave. He lost access to all of his systems. Gone. Says these files are extremely sensitive It's wild. So they lost access to their personal, medical, and security clearance files. Okay, so like these guys, they were using their personal office emails for like everything, right? Why does it have family member and all that other info in there? We could be doxxed, and you're concerned about being doxxed. He's extremely worried about this prospect. Like, Elon's going to get your information and put it on his X account. Did you break the law? Are you going to be indicted? Number 8 is a PSC who worked for 16 years for the federal government, now gone. They're part of a team that provides emergency aid. Where have they gone? Oh yeah, Gaza and Ukraine. Great. Back-to-back deployments on Armenia, Gaza, and Ukraine. Great. Don't need you. As a result, this person was locked out. No email, no communication, don't know what to do. 9, high-risk area in the Middle East. Tried to log into their account. Gone. No access. Weren't notified of being cut off. Hopes they can get out and get taken care of, but they're still trying to work. They've tried to reach the helpline in DC, but there's no one's answering. You know what the answer is. You're done. Find a different solution. So all of these other, so they give us a kind of a rundown here. So they give us like 10 of them. They say 10, 12, 14, 17, 19, and the rest of them are also other contractors. They've lost access to this. And Musk is the de facto DOGE administrator. And the DOGE service was established. And so you can see they want them to stop what they're doing. And they give us all these details. One person who's also freaked about this is Maxine Waters. And she let this one slip when she was having a conversation with Jerome Powell.
When Musk comes knocking at the Fed's door, you gonna let him in?
I don't have anything for you on that.
Would you like to tell us today that you won't let DOGE into the Federal Reserve have access to the systems and the data?
We've had no contact, and I don't really have nothing for you to report today on that.
Well, you know what happened at Treasury, and you know what happened over at the CFPB, and the people of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us, our bank account, everything that in our lives. So I want to protect it in the Fed. Mr. Powell.
We don't know what they have on us. Well, we're about to find out, aren't we there, Maxine? So here is Governor Josh Shapiro. He's also freaked out, so he's suing. He's saying, to protect Pennsylvania and to get our money, I'm left with no choice but to pursue legal action to defend our Commonwealth. And there's this new refrain that's popping up. It's like, wait a minute. New York just got cut off, and now Pennsylvania's getting cut off, and all these other states are not getting their sanctuary city money, right? They're clawing back the FEMA funds and the rest of this federal government money. And they're like, wait, we paid into that. Like, we're New Yorkers. We pay a bunch of taxes too. So we should get the rest of the country to fund our illegal alien problem and more. Here is what Josh Shapiro submitted. You can see this is another state suing on behalf of Pennsylvania. This guy also obviously has presidential aspirations, suing Doug Burgum, Department of Interior. And he's saying that they got a lot of money that was supposed to be coming their way. And here's where some of that money went. Pennsylvania EPA says that we already had money, $3 billion over 15 years that was supposed to come to us. We also have $76 million of federal funding to plug abandoned oil and gas wells. That's cut off. Other grants, $126 million each to allow 28,000 low-income households to perform work on their homes that will lower their utility bills. We're paying for that? I don't think it's Pennsylvania tax dollars that are coming out of that 126. That's the rest of us. And the government's just giving it back to them so that they can pay Democrats $126 million to go do a bunch of stuff to get Democratic votes in Pennsylvania. Now, the Pennsylvania agencies have already entered into agreements, and those funds are ours. However, President Trump has now unilaterally and arbitrarily suspended or restricted these funds. Since around the 27th, federal agencies have restricted Pennsylvania agencies for about $3.1 billion in total. In addition to funding the programs, these include $800 million in other funding for clean water infrastructure, $400 million for manufacturing and industrial companies throughout Pennsylvania. Look, it's all garbage crap to mitigate their greenhouse gas emissions, and tens of millions for a program that supports resilient and reliable electric service in rural communities. What are you doing? That's outside of the alignment of presidential prerogatives. We're not giving you green energy garbage anymore. You guys can spend your own money on that. Pennsylvania agencies have over $2.5 billion remaining under grant programs that are now suspended, for which reimbursement of expenses should be allowed. Over $1 billion of the $2.5 billion has already been obligated, including to other people who are doing the work. So they're like, we already hired the contractors and already promised them the money. Too bad. Projects canceled. In addition, $2.69 billion was appropriated for an abandoned mine program. What are they going to do? Shove some more federal records down there? We don't need it. In all, then, federal agencies' recent suspensions have jeopardized $5.5 billion that has been been committed to Pennsylvania. Shapiro and members of Pennsylvania agencies have been working with federal partners to try to restore these funds. Well, I don't know how they're helping you. It's cut off. You're done. Despite 2 temporary restraining orders, so we have to sue. And now we're suing. In executing these funding suspensions, agencies have asserted power to suspend and restrict. Doesn't matter if Trump dislikes it because Congress has appropriated the money. Here, federal agency defendants have exceeded their authority. They're not explaining plausibly why these funds are being suspended. They've given you an explanation. You know why. Because it's for Democratic garbage projects. Unilaterally suspending the funds violates the Constitution. He's not allowed to do that. And so we want an order that prevents federal agencies from violating this, and we want our money back. Give us our money. Billions of dollars, $5 billion bucks gone, and not going to be sent over their way. And Ron Wyden, Mr. Seed Oils, says, my office is now hearing that DOGE is at the IRS. They've arrived. That means, he says, this is a Democrat, that Musk's henchmen are in a position to dig through a trove of data about every taxpayer in America versus what? Other treasury hacks. And if your refund is delayed, they could be the reason. From Ron Wyden. No, Ron, your refunds are delayed. Okay. You're not getting your money anymore. And that's why you're so upset. So here's a great question that Elon and Representative Eric Burleson were asking about this. What the hell happened to the Democratic Party? Why are Democrats happy with their money going to non-American interests? What does that tell you about them? They didn't always used to be that way. Here's Bill and Al Gore, along with the rest of them, explaining we should have a functional government.
Tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending.
You didn't. You
we
created
thought
this
that it was
entire
entirely appropriate
infrastructure
for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign Cut Waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting.
They didn't do any of that. Obviously, they created this entire infrastructure for themselves. They were paying their entities, and the Democrats were the beneficiaries of all of our tax dollars. And they did this for decades. Think about $1 trillion Democratic infrastructure that was stood up for them by them and was winning on both ends, right? They were paying their friendly media, paying their friendly candidates, and suppressing the rest of us, suppressing who was disfavored. Here is somebody who was astute at the early outset of the 2024 election, who explained that Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate, that Joe Biden was even worse. Dean Phillips ran, and he got scolded by the Democrats, saying, how dare you try to offer an alternative vision for the future of the country? And now he's also saying this is not working out well for them. All this hystericism over the DOGE cuts is showing Americans who the Democrats really are and who they fight for, which is really themselves. Here is Dean Phillips.
Given that viewpoint, what do you make of what Elon Musk is doing in the present?
Well, Laura, thanks for having me. I have to tell you, I watched this with some real mixed emotions because I'm a long-suffering Democrat that wished my party would pay more attention, A, to the issues that more Americans are finding important, but B, to management and to efficiency and to competency. And I have to tell you, Laura, I watched that hearing today. I intentionally watched it and tried to do it objectively, just as an American paying attention to a committee hearing. And I got to tell you, I was really embarrassed for my Democratic colleagues, Mr. Garcia and others, because the fact of the matter is this is not playing well around the country.
Nope.
People want the government to work better. They believe that Mr. Musk, one of the most extraordinary entrepreneurs in human history, who does not fail at just about anything, they want him to do this, most Americans. They wanted Trump. They elected him. And I just would hope that my Democratic colleagues might change the strategy and perhaps actually work with Republicans to identify waste and fraud and actually attack that, because then they would have some more credibility as it relates to the constitutional issues and the ones that are actually going to hurt human beings, including federal employees who are now being used as pawns. So that is how most Americans feel. But Democrats are not projecting that, and I'm deeply concerned about leadership right now.
Yeah, it's a strange thing that's happening, and it doesn't feel like they have any uniformity amongst the senior leadership, but it does feel like they're getting orders. Like their donors, the people who are frothy liberals who just live for the fight, it feels like they're sending the messages out. You have to get out there and fight, fight, fight. I don't care what it is. Keep that money on. Like, remember, a lot of these Democrats, I think, are just paid for by their donors and by their entities, the institutions who they represent. And if those institutions are on the verge of losing everything, it's a do or die situation for them. They have no choice but to get out there, lest their political power evaporate. And we're excited to watch as it does. So Dean Phillips, I think, articulates a nice vision forward for the Democrats, and that actually would be more threatening, like if they came back and they said, wow, we had no idea. But here's what we think our priorities should be. And we're ready to work with the Republicans to cut this, this, and this, but not this, because this is critical for the workers in Michigan, right? Would be a smart thing to do. But they're not that smart. They're too caught up in their old ideologies, and that is to our benefit. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing the show with a friend or family member, and we'll see you back here on the next one.